Progressive International about Iceland, also for the rest
David,
of the CC, because we had a talk with the Icelandic government last week, so maybe just two sentences.
Okay, we are beginning, comrades. Hello. Welcome to another CC meeting. Today we are going to start the big picture segment of our meeting with Srećko, and what is the latest news from Croatia. We will probably say something about the upcoming elections in Serbia, and then we will take it away to a broader context. Srećko, please.
Yeah, hi everyone again. Because we saw each other a few minutes ago, we just started. Well, I don't have really much to say about the big picture, except that as we announced already in one of the coordinating collective meetings, there are elections coming after this post-COVID situation, both in Croatia and Serbia. Maybe even, you can say something about Serbia. Regarding Croatia, a few days ago, we got a request by our spontaneous collective, as we call it, in Rijeka, to support the left-green coalition in Croatia, which I think we should definitely do, and we already talked about it among each other, so maybe we can just update you on the situation. For those of you who don't know, we already supported one party which is now part of this bigger coalition for the national elections in Croatia. It is Možemo, and I think Yanis even sent a great video. It was half a year ago, 1 year ago, I think, for Možemo. Elections are coming now. They have big chances to get a few MPs in the parliament. They are aligned with DiEM's policies, mainly with the Green New Deal, because it's a left-green coalition. Sorry. It's not, who knows, maybe this. Yeah, maybe I should just mute myself. Anyhow, so we have a text. We also have a summary of their program. Johannes sent it to the validating council, and I think next week we might publish the support, and I'm confident that it will go around in the mainstream media in Croatia, and that it will be a very nice and supportive push for our friends here to reach the parliament in Croatia. In the meantime, regarding big pictures, yeah, maybe that's something Yanis could comment. I don't know. I would be interested, because now it seems that, you know, after these elections in July, everything should be ready for Croatia to join the Eurozone. I mean, Croatia won't join in July yet, but the current government is saying that the way is prepared, and there seems to be a consensus about it, even among the Social Democrats, basically the neoliberals who privatized half of Croatia, and the conservatives. They all want to go into the euro. So maybe Yanis could give also a comment on that. What is waiting for Croatia after we join the euro in this COVID situation? I would really love to know. I don't know, maybe just Johannes, a word about the validating council. I think everything is being taken care of, right?
Yes, this will go out tomorrow morning, and we are just collecting the last information, so they have enough to decide upon and to have a good picture of the situation in Croatia, and then it will go out, and I think by Sunday we should have the results.
Great. I love the birds you have both there. Yeah, I shut up. This was just a short update. I know you.
Yes, regarding the elections in Serbia, it's quite bizarre. I mean, it's getting more and more bizarre every time. Right now, we are having the situation that ruling party, which is called Progressive Party, to add to absurd, is of course campaigning heavily, riding the way of fighting the corona so well. While we don't really know what are the real numbers, what is the situation right now, because right now all of the measures are lifted and there is no crisis doctors team anymore, and of course gatherings are allowed and so on. Half of the so-called opposition is boycotting elections, which of course makes no sense if everybody doesn't boycott. So this adds to confusion of the voters, of course, And sadly, we don't have the case of little left light as in Croatia to hold on to it. There might be there are some attempts to create a left-wing party, but it's not ready for these elections, nor these elections would change anything. So basically we are where we are, sinking more and more every day into complete absence of state, you know. It's not, it's beyond analysis, I think. So that would be my gloomy report. And now I'll give the floor to Yanis.
You're mute.
Speaking of Croatia and Bulgaria.
Bulgaria?
Bulgaria and Croatia, because they are the two countries that have applied for ERM2, Exchange Rate Mechanism 2, which is the pre-chamber before the euro. Croatia has been admitted, Bulgaria has not. And the crazy reason is that Bulgaria has a little bit of inflation, whereas Croatia has a bit of deflation. And this is supposed to be a good thing when it should be exactly the opposite. The reason why Croatia has deflation is because it's crumbling. And, you know, when things are going bad, prices fall, wages fall, debts rise. And that is not a good thing. And yet, because of the Maastricht rules that do not penalize deflation, but only penalize inflation, Croatia has been allowed into the pre-chamber of the euro, whereas Bulgaria, whose leadership equally, inanely want to get in, nevertheless, they've been saved by the fact that they had a bit of inflation. Whereas you Croats, I'm referring to my good friend and comrade Sergio Horvat, are not going to escape your success at entering the Eurozone. In the case of Croatia, as long as the authorities continue to peg your currency to the euro, it makes no difference on a day-to-day basis. Because to keep pegging it to the euro, you need to keep enforcing more and more austerity at home when you have a deficit economy like Croatia. So even if you don't get into the euro, as long as the current policy is being imposed, you're suffering all the ill effects from being in the Eurozone without any of the benefits. And then they come and say, oh, let's get in the euro because, you know, let's at least get the benefits. But the reason why you are in this situation is because they're imposing the peg, you know, the complete lockstep between the national currency and the euro. What does this mean for Croatia if it gets into the euro in the longer term? Well, that depends on the politics of the Eurozone. It depends on what happens to all of us. You know, you'll have joined a club that will sink together or float together. And it all hinges on when the new wave of austerity comes. And that depends entirely on Berlin. Entirely on Berlin. Olaf Scholz came out, we had mixed messages. This is what I'm going to say and then I'll wind it down. In the last few days, we had two exceptionally contradictory messages. One came from Olaf Scholz yesterday, the finance minister of the federal government in Germany, which was on the positive side. He said, well, I mean, it was a bit, a kind of bowing to realism. He said, the German federal government will not start repaying its debt until 2023. Yeah, as if it could be differently. But nevertheless, you know, what Merkel had said a few weeks ago, and I reported this to you, was that they would start repaying as of 2021. What does repaying mean? It means that the budget is going to be in surplus. Because if it is in surplus, the surplus goes to repay part of the debt. If it's a deficit, it means you borrow more. So Olaf Scholz seems to be signaling that at least from the SPD side, there is a plan to delay going back to balanced budget and a small primary surplus until 2023. Whether that is going to be the situation in Germany next year, Who knows? Who knows who the chancellor is going to be next year? Who knows whether the SPD will still be in government, whether there is going to be this government or another government. So it's up in the air. But there's been a negative signal too. Remember, I talked about mixed messages, contradictory messages. And that was last Thursday, the 11th of the month, when the Eurogroup met, my favorite forum, in which the ministers, in their infinite wisdom, came up with a joint communique, which said that Greece is going to start repaying its debt in 2021. Germany is postponing it until 2023, but tiny little destroyed, bankrupt, godforsaken Greece is going to go into a primary surplus next year. And that is a joint communique. This is not some report. It's a joint communique. It means it's an agreement by 19 ministers of finance. So effectively what Berlin has, that's my take. What they have signaled, by the way, the Greek finance minister, I know that because he told me, requested an extension to 2024 to go into a primary surplus in 2024. So this communique, which says that Greece is going to go into a primary surplus in 2021, means one thing. They said 9 to him, capital N-E-I-N, right? You go back to surplus next year. So the same finance minister, more or less, who said that Germany is not going to go into primary surplus until 2023, is imposing about Greece. Now, if they do that to Italy, we are in serious, serious trouble. And how does this pertain to Croatia? If Zagreb wants to get into the euro, seriously to get into the euro, because ERM2 is just a fiction. But if they really want to get into the euro, expect gigantic austerity to go along with it. You're going to experience the worst of the worst, Srečko. The moment you get into the euro, you're going to have a one-off increase in prices. All prices will be rounded up. Okay, all prices. Pop, everything will sell for 20% more, 10% more. And from that moment onwards, you're going to have deflation. And deflation of wages more than prices. So wages will be falling faster than prices. Especially if the message that they sent to the Greeks last Thursday is also sent to the Croats. Unless they send different messages to different decrepit countries. So anyway, that's my briefing for this week. If I were religious, I would be doing this. I'm not religious, so I'm being blasphemous.
Thank you, Yanis. Maybe we can, David, if you have something about Progressive International to tell us briefly, and we can move on to next topic.
Sure. Moving on from Yanis's ever-inspiring pessimism of the intellect and optimism of the religious will, I relayed the great news that last week we had our first formal cabinet meeting of the Progressive International, which included, just by way of recap, myself in my capacity as general coordinator, Srečko as a council member, as well as Renata, Aruna Roy, and Andres Arauz, 4 council members, and Hala Gunnarsdottir, who is our summit coordinator based in Iceland. And based on discussions both in Iceland and within the group, there was a unanimous vote to go ahead with preparations for the Reykjavik summit in Iceland in mid-September. Whether that results in a partial physical attendance, almost certainly it will result in a partial physical attendance by the council and a partial digital attendance. The exact distribution programming remains to be seen, but the good news is that the momentum of the initiative will be sustained, and we'll be able to get together in Reykjavik as the first real step towards the institutionalization of this of the PI. So it's good news, exciting news. Obviously, all the work of the preparation began once that vote came through last week, but it's an exciting moment for all of us.
It certainly is. And we are getting the feedback from members, and everybody is super excited about everything going on. So, okay, moving on. Next on our agenda is our progressive agenda. And where are we at the moment? We had some policy papers in different phases. Some are drafts, some are somewhere frozen, nothing is happening. So let's see what we can do to revive these thematic DSCs, form some new DSCs, the thematic DSCs which are pending, and so on. I can see Cici.
No, I mean, I would like to go back, I'm afraid, to what Yanis was saying about the economic situation, so on and so forth, and simply ask two questions. And these questions come from a person who is doing literature and culture and political theory, 17th century political theory in her life. I'm talking about me. So they might sound really stupid, but I don't know, perhaps there are many stupid people amongst us who could profit from the answers, I think. First, I mean, what you said about Croatia and Bulgaria, I mean, you know, taking these terms to human relationships, we could speak of fetishism, Yani, some sort of fetishism of deflation. Okay, because it doesn't make sense to me in any other way. Sorry, I use these psychological terms. I don't understand, in other words, at all, why deflation, although not truly useful. Yes, I know, David, I'm not an economist, sorry.
That's not it. No worries.
Sorry, I'm not an economist. I explained myself. I mean, you know, why this fetishism of deflations, even if practically, from what you said, they are not viable positions for capitalism. I mean, okay, that's the first question. Excuse my stupidity. And the second is this story about primary surpluses. I mean, in the long run, in the final analysis, as Louis Althusser would say, doesn't this story turn against capitalism after all? I mean, what's the end of the tunnel? Sorry. I mean, when are we going to see light? I mean, does this story lead to capitalism self-destruction or not? Thank you, guys.
Yanis, I understand the questions were for you, so please.
Look, firstly, none of us have the right to apologize for questions that are really not trivial and which are central to the public debates. And forget about economists. Most of the economists don't understand these things. So the fact that you're not an economist gives you a greater chance of understanding those issues than had you been an economist. You know that my view on this. Okay, why does the ruling class prefer deflation to inflation? It's a class issue. It's really very simple. If you have money, let's say you have a wad of money here, you know, under your bed, €1 million, and in cash, and you have deflation, its value increases. It can tomorrow, because prices have fallen, you can buy more stuff, pay more people to do things for you. You have more power over people and the rest of the economy if there is deflation. So if you're moneyed, you like deflation. Why should you not like deflation? If you have no money and your debt, your mortgage is in euros, all right, but your euro wages are coming down, your debt goes up relative to your wages. So you are in deep trouble. Whereas if you have a wad of money and there's the inflation, its bargaining power, its power to purchase stuff declines in proportion to the inflation rate. So it's a pure class issue, right? The working class should hate deflation. The ruling class loves deflation. They have a problem with deflation because, you know, there's no free lunch for them either, because, okay, the money that they have accumulated buys more stuff. But then if they are capitalists and they're producing stuff, then the other poor bastards can't buy them. Okay, so their profit rate goes down. But if you have the central bank producing wads of money, giving it to you, it's okay. Again, it's fine. There is, now we have a situation where Siemens and Alstom and, Santander, the Spanish bank and so on, they get free money from the central bank. So even though they don't make any serious profits, actually they have losses in the real economy, they don't mind. They have their accumulated wads of money, they gain value, and they get more wads of money from the central bank. For negative interest rates, the central bank pays them to borrow. Okay, you want to, once more, the central bank, has anyone ever given you money to take money away from them? This is where we are. This is the state of the universe. Okay, so I think that answers the question. So Croatia has deflation coming. Effectively, we will exploit you more. We will take more money, more value from the working class of Croatia. Bulgaria has inflation, stay away. We cannot exploit you. Is that clear? And the two go together. That's it. That's the answer.
So it's lose-lose, CC. Okay, so moving on to progressive agenda now. I'm not sure if Simona can connect her
She just sent us a chat message saying, my connection is really impossible. I'm writing here.
Yes.
So can somebody else present? Does anyone else know of what Simona's proposals are?
No.
I have an outline because I discussed it with her, but I'd feel more comfortable if she presented it herself. So if we move to another agenda item and give her some time to come back, because I think her connection dropped completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I suggest we also jump then to the other item of the agenda, and then if Simona comes back.
Implementation of Prague proposals, that's next. And I don't have the name next to it, so I'm not sure who is supposed to present.
I don't know either, but I can walk us through each one briefly.
Cool.
And I'll give the floor to people who are responsible for coordinating the different proposals. So the first one was the Rethinking the DiEM25 Academy, which was proposed by Miriam of the French NC. And there, I think Ivana was the contact person, the CC. So maybe Ivana, you can give us briefly the state of play.
Yes. The proposal evolved to educational system proposal, and we've been in touch, especially Johannes and me, with Miriam, and Johannes spent last couple of weeks discussing the way of how to best implement educational system. And right now they're in the phase of Miriam and the team are in the phase of finding the platform which can accommodate these tools, learning tools, and which is compatible with our website. Otherwise, it would be difficult. So it's progressing well, and we will come back with an updated final solution how to implement this on our website shortly, I hope. Johannes, maybe you have something to add to this?
Yes, even my sound will be a little bit strange because there's some music going on here now after the birds. But just briefly, yes, I think you explained it very well. And I think we're very shortly moving forward with, proposing an education platform and, coordinating with our IT team around Judith, and then taking the next step and building up a team that can then implement our education system.
Thanks, Johannes. Just to point out, there's another 7 of these guys, so let's be a bit briefer about our status updates. Coming up next is solidifying the electoral wings of DiEM25. That was a proposal by Adrian that was voted through in Prague, and I believe Lewis was the contact person for this one. So
right. So I'll be brief. All is going well because we've been having these calls every month with all the NCs and EWs. We've been able to more or less get some feedback as to draw what it will be, or playbook, or basically the book that will move us ahead in this enhancement of our electoral wings, checks and balances, right protocols, and avoid problems in the past with coalitions and all of that. DiEM first agenda, and we're going to be trying to make some actual, as post coronavirus allows, meetings and whatnot to further entice our members to seize those electoral opportunities where DiEM25 can propose effectively and bring electoral, format to its proposals. So right now, just getting together the notebook the template that will help with electoral wings across Europe.
Okay, I guess Eric, you know who's next.
Sorry, I lost my unmute button. So the next one was the workplace democracy is our way out of capitalism. This has been subsumed to the, what's it called?
Hello.
Hi.
Electoral wings, I need to say something.
Of course, go on, sorry.
Last night we had a board meeting, the General Secretariat of Mera25, the Greek electoral wing. And we are very close towards the end of the process of the new statutes, the constitution of the party. Because Mera25 is the most developed of our electoral wings, courtesy of having entered parliament, effectively, and we've been in parliament for a year now, we have been forced by circumstances to produce a decent set of statutes for the party. And because we now have parliamentarians like Fotini, we have the General Secretariat, we have a different organization for organizing grassroots, we have a finance committee, because now we have funding, we have the Center for Post-Capitalist Civilization that I have already announced to you, and which we will have to talk about the staffing of when we are ready to go to that phase. Anyway, we have a big organization now. We have a fully fledged political party in Greece. And at some point we realized that our constitution, our statutes, our organizing principles are pathetic. Yeah, they are the organizing principles of a 20 or 30 person group. And now we have thousands, and we have institutions, we have finances, we have parliamentarians and so on. So to cut a long story short, we've started 4 months ago a process of deliberation about what the OPs, let's call them OPs, of Mera25 should be. And we've reached the stage where yesterday we approved a text as a basis of a very brief period of a final consultation between now and the 26th of June, that is the following Friday, not tomorrow, Friday, tomorrow. And then this will be processed by our committee for a few days to make any amendments, the amendment process like we amended the AMVs. And then on the 1st of July, we will have a meeting again and approve the final text. The final text then will be translated and go to an all-member vote, as it should. Why am I telling you this? Because having looked into this constitution, OPs, it seems to me that it would be useful to consider using it as a template, not the same thing, but as a template for the constitutions or the OPs of all other electoral wings, with, of course, flexibility, to adjust it for, in order to reflect the different circumstances in a country, large country like Germany, as opposed to a much smaller country like Portugal, right? I just wanted to state that so that you know that, there is an AMV coming. We would like it to be between the 7th and the 14th of July. The reason for choosing that week is symbolic. Firstly, we want it done before the summer starts properly. And it's a good one. 7th of July is the first anniversary of when we entered Parliament. And 14th of July is Bastille Day. So these are quite two good markers to have our AMV during which to have the AMV. So I just wanted to mention that as part of the work we are doing to refurbish, recalibrate, start the electoral wings again, and giving them life and something to actually discuss, because there are interesting questions that which I had not even thought of, nobody had thought of, until we started writing down. Because the difficulty with the electoral wing is this, and that I realized in the process of Mera25. On the one hand, you've got the need to keep them under DiEM25 to ensure that they remain instruments of DiEM25, that they do not become free-floating parties that DiEM25 is simply related to in some distant way. But at the same time, we need autonomy within the electoral wings. And it's also a cultural issue. So when we elect NCs, it's important that it is done on a person by person basis. That is, all the candidates for the NC are approved or disapproved, voted for or not voted for by all DiEMers, which means that the videos must be in English. Otherwise, how can we judge another country's candidate for the NC? But you can't do this for an electoral wing, because that would be to exclude, Greeks who don't speak English, Portuguese who don't speak English, Germans who don't speak English. So these are, I don't want to say more on this. We will translate it into English and send it to all of you to look at very shortly, to see if we want, as SEC, to recommend that this becomes, if you want, a raw material or template or whatever you want to call it for electoral wings across Europe.
Great, Yanis, and that's definitely going to inform the work of on the proposal coming out of Prague on solidifying our electoral wings. It goes exactly in that direction. So we need to make sure we combine it with what has been prepared by Lewis. We definitely will. We also have an upcoming Zoom call between CC members and members of all the electoral wings of DiEM25, including Mera. I believe Alexis Mirlis is going to be there to sort of coordinate and discuss also this. And see how we can make sure that all of our electoral wings essentially are all expressions of the same thing everywhere in Europe, and maintain this sort of coherence. An informal chat as a first opportunity, but a step in the right direction. So thank you for that. I'll try and speed up the update on the pillars now, because I know we spent a bit of time on this. The fourth proposal was the one on workplace democracy. This has been proposed by Nicolas Dessau, was approved and has been subsumed to the work we will be doing on post-capitalism in general under the chapter on labor. We have already agreed on the different chapters of the post-capitalism pillar of DiEM25. And the work now has sort of slowly begun with Nicolas trying to come up with a team of people who are willing to help compile the different responses we'll be receiving from the membership to flesh out the policy paper on that. However, the last update we received from Nicolas was that things are quite slow. Quite a few people are not engaged. It seems that more guidance is needed from our side in terms of specifically kind of the questions we'd like them to be answering, not just broad topics. So perhaps that's something we as a CC need to discuss and provide by the end of the summer, perhaps. I don't know if anybody would have anything to say on post-capitalism specifically and how we organize the work. Otherwise, we can come back to it some other time. But I know we've been preparing some ideas which will come out by the end of the summer. So that's the fourth proposal. The fifth was the campaign for democratic relaunch of the EU. That was proposed by Martin de Groot and Michele Fiorillo. The last update was a week or 2 weeks ago. They've decided to create a thematic DSC on the topic of a constitution, of European constitution, and continue their work through that channel and build their campaign on the basis of a thematic DSC on that topic. That's the last we heard from them. And we've promised to help in any way that we can, but we haven't received any calls for assistance at this stage. The sixth proposal was DiEM Explore, which came from Manuela, I think, David, were you the one that was working? Yeah. Maybe
yes, that's right.
A brief update.
We also haven't received any call for further discussions. I remember we had a call with Manuela and Neil at the end of March, and I connected them with the right people within our movement because they want to create this sort of outward-looking material focusing on different issues like housing crisis, etc., and how it affects people all over Europe. And I've emailed them today asking if they would like to have a follow-up call to see if there's anything that we can do as the CC to support them. So that's where we're at the moment. We'll have another call and then we'll take it from there and see if they need any help. But I haven't heard anything yet, so I think that everything is okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then we had the one on citizens' assemblies. This was proposed by Gabriel. They have now finished compiling different literature and ideas about what a citizen assembly is to create one kind of educational DiEM25 module about what a citizen assembly is and how to organize one, because it's a very specific methodology. And they are now planning on hosting a number of DiEM25 Goes Local sessions based on this concept with different practitioners and so on, help educate some of our members on how this methodology works, and then start having these on different topics around Europe. So that's where we are right now, and they hope to start as of September with educational modules. And the final one was upgrading our digital collaboration infrastructure, which Judith was in charge of coordinating, who isn't here currently. So I suggest we postpone the status update on this one to next time when Judith is with us. That's it from me.
Thank you, Eric. I see Simona's hand, so I don't know if it's something about the proposals, Simona.
Oh, yes. I tried to have a video. I just wanted to ask, maybe I missed the news about DiEM as a network because of my bad today's connection. And and are we talking about pillars now, or
that's the next topic? So we will go back to DiEM as a network. That's Simona's question, Eric. Proposal DiEM as a network.
Since I have an opportunity to have a rather good connection in this moment, and I'm not sure of what shall happen, I say now what I have to say. I sent you a document with an appraisal of the state of art of all pillars. Please discuss it if I'm not there. The main problem is we have many pillars that have not anymore a point person in the CC, because it's people that are not there anymore. And me and Mame made an assessment of the coordinators still there. We found many of them, but there are some that are still missing. For example, a European Constitution doesn't have a coordinator, and some of the others are in the same condition. The main issue I wanted to discuss is how do we connect all of them with the post-capitalism pillar, and whether post-capitalism is a pillar or a meta-pillar connecting all of them. So please discuss this issue if I'm not there, and I'll agree with whatever you say.
Okay. I believe that Johannes recently sent an email for the thematic DSC coordinators to see who is active and who is not, or I'm mistaken.
Yes, but the deadline I set them to come back to me is a little further, so I cannot make a summary yet about this.
No problem, just to know that we are on it. So the email to coordinators was sent. We also know that from some of the, I believe it's Green Transition and another thematic DSC, the emails are returning with a message that those thematic DSCs are no longer active. So I don't know who could take over and if it's needed, or we could just agree that we will proceed with the tidying up of the progressive agenda and looking into more comprehensive list, what's going on with policy papers and so on.
We need to choose some point persons in the CC for the pillars that lack.
We should probably first establish which are active still and then do that. Eric, I see your hand.
But we can reactivate them if they have a point person. For example, Labor as Marianne Dufour and Jacques Ternoir and Nicolas Dessau on this. So this can be reactivated, but it needs a point person. And ecological transition has become the GNDA or hasn't.
Yes.
Anyway, it was Paola Pietrandrea.
Yes, but now when we get the feedback from the email Johannes sent and we know who is active, who is not, I think that would be more practical than to appoint point person for a non-existing DSC.
But pillars are not the same thing as DSC.
Yes.
And we should develop them in any case. I don't understand.
Okay, what's your proposal? Do you, Eric, please, and Simon. Okay, Eric.
Right. So yeah, I of course the thematic DSCs are not pillars, but a lot of the people who coordinate the pillars might come from thematic DSCs because the interests overlap. So I think because we are in this sort of exploratory phase right now, where we're looking at who is still interested, who's still active, who isn't, and we're also essentially a month away from the beginning of another round of CC elections, which will then change who will be responsible for what pillar and so on. I suggest we just right now, the main thing to agree on, and I thought we had agreed on this, but I might be mistaken, that the post-capitalism pillar is not a pillar, but it's an umbrella essentially, which will then affect all the different pillars. It's a guiding sort of political and structural principle for the movement that has some overarching concepts and policies and ideas, but then also implements changes to different pillars in order to make sure that everything functions within the post-capitalist concept and structure, right? That was my understanding of that project, but perhaps we need to discuss it again. We need to agree on that, but otherwise, in terms of appointing task forces for each pillar and appointing a coordinator on the side of the CC for each pillar, I think that's something that probably needs to wait until the end of the CC elections, especially the CC contact person, not so much the task forces. If we can find someone in the meantime based on Johannes's searches and efforts as well, then that's great. But especially when it comes to the CC appointments, I think that it would make more sense for us to do that as of September, when we have potentially some new colleagues with us.
Okay, Simona?
Okay, I agree.
Okay, good. Moving on. Next topic is CC's responsibilities and reassessment. Whose topic is this? Who put it on the agenda? Who would like to present?
I thought it was you.
No.
No. Maybe it was me following a discussion we had. We had a phone call, me and Ivana, about the fact that I say I am not clear about who's doing what in the above all in the office, and there was a misunderstanding about it. What I'm saying is it would be good to have a clear idea in developing. This is not an issue of trust. This is an issue of being able to follow the process, to take to take the work on when somebody leaves it, and overall to take informed decisions on stuff that we know. I feel I know that maybe, as an example, Johannes is in charge of volunteer coordinators. That's fine, but doing his capacity. I would like to be more informed on it, and I think as a form of accountability towards our members, it would be great to let them know also who's on what, who's working on what. The second issue is we have different visions maybe on what's the task of an elected member and what's the task of the office. Of course, we share work and we do, everyone does his or her best for DiEM, but and to volunteer for DiEM is a privilege, but I didn't run in elections to get this privilege. I ran in elections to be able to take political decisions and informed political decisions. I would like to put more work in getting informed on what's going on, and less work in, or the same work on doing practical stuff.
Okay, thank you, Simona. Your connection is pretty bad, but I hope everybody was able to hear and understand. First of all, I would like to clarify a couple of things. We are always saying, and that's something that we should never stop saying, that we should improve always. And I think that we are working a lot on improvements and some better communication with the CC members and with members. So what you've mentioned about description, who is doing what, there is a document which was produced in February, if I'm not mistaken, and it's posted on our website. It's available also for our members to see. Most of us have contacts, emails, and people know for what to contact us. Johannes, as you said, for volunteer coordination, Judith is IT, David is communications, and so on and so on. I think that those are some pretty known positions so far. As for the political informed decisions, of course, sometimes it's not really simple because there is a lot of things going on, but each of us needs to put some of the effort to find out or you ask, we often miss things, and sometimes it's complicated, as political picture in Italy is very complicated. So I would never just assume, I would always ask. So that's basically what I have to say about it. And I don't know if anybody else would like to add. Claudia.
Yeah, I'm just a bit surprised about that question. For example, for me and my team, the press team, we're always sending around our reports once a week where you can see what happened. It's a link to the forum where all the articles are in. I'm also presenting everything I'm working on with our team, what interview is going to be done in the next week and what we're achieving. And yeah, so from my side, I don't understand the question really, because I think, yeah, if anybody has a question, can also ask me, of course. You can email me. I will always be there for you to answer your questions. And so therefore, I don't feel really the use of, or perhaps you can be a bit more concrete what you need, because there's also a list on the website where the description of every ex officio and also CEC member is written down. So I think it's very transparent, and I don't, yeah, actually, I don't get it at the moment. Sorry, Simona, that I have to say that.
Thanks, Claudia. Eric, and then Cici.
Thanks, Ivana. Thank you, Simona, for bringing this up. I just wanted to take the opportunity, since people might be watching who are not aware of the office and what that might mean. Essentially, there is a group of people on the CC who have been appointed by the CC with particular tasks, both appointed members, ex officios, as we call them, and elected members who have particular tasks within DiEM. For example, I'm elected, but I also have a particular task, which is the coordination of the office and movement planning. Ivana does finances. She's also elected, but also has a practical position, a technical position, if you like. These people who have technical positions coordinate with each other on something that we sort of unofficially call the office, because it does the practical work of DiEM. So the CC decides things, and then the office makes sure that the things that get decided get implemented. That's the idea behind the office and what the office essentially does. The roles of the office, like Ivana said, and Claudia also pointed out, exist, and they don't just exist in title. There are descriptions of them in PowerPoint that exists on our website, and our members should check that out. I think it's interesting and useful. And then in terms of what we do, it's essentially what we say in these calls. We just implement that. So I take Simona's points, but it'd be maybe more useful if we got concrete suggestions about what she would like to make her feel like she's better informed about what's going on, rather than having it, theoretically like this, because I personally don't see it the same. That's it from me.
Cici.
Yes, I'm a bit surprised about this issue that was resolved ages ago in the way that Ivana, Eric, and Claudia already described. There is nothing mysterious about it. Everything is out in the open. And talking as an elected member, I personally never felt that important political issues have never been discussed because we are preoccupied with other things. Starting with the Serbian elections and then Croatian elections, to mention the latest example, and going back to issues like the Italian and French local elections, everything has been dealt thoroughly by all of us. There was plenty of information, and I don't think, honestly don't think that we the elected members were devoid of any kind of information or sharing of problematics that, in my opinion, is the best thing in the city of DiEM. I never felt like this. Sorry to use my personal sort of way of speaking, but I don't think that doing things has always been at the expense of major political issues that have always been shared. And we have the results of it. So I find this point out of place. Sorry for being like this, but I'm talking my honest opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Cici, and it's a valid counter opinion of an elected CC member. Now we can go back to Simona. Simona, I can see you have your hand up. Would you like to speak? Or okay, maybe there is also an issue with the connection. Anybody else? No? Okay. So this was the final topic on our agenda. Let's conclude this with whatever is not clear or you would like to find out and you didn't have anyone to ask, please ask. And if there is an issue, let's discuss it and let's not drag it along with us for a very long time. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week.